After my son died, his wife thought she could humiliate me every single day. But she didn't know the secret I was hiding. My name is Martha. I'm 80 years old, and I live in Atlanta, Georgia. Before I continue, tell me what city you're watching from. I always love seeing where people are listening to my story. And if you believe elders deserve respect, make sure you subscribe to Golden Years Stories, because stories like mine happen more often than people realize. Now let me tell you what happened. My son Daniel passed away 3 years ago after a sudden heart attack. He was only 52. Losing a child is something no mother should ever experience, no matter how old she is. After the funeral, his wife Debbie came to me with tears in her eyes. "Martha," she said, "I can't afford the house Daniel and I were renting anymore. Can I stay with you for a while?" Of course I said yes. She was my daughter-in-law. She had been part of our family for almost 20 years, and I thought we could help each other through the grief. But the moment she moved into my house, everything changed. At first, Debbie acted sweet. She cooked dinner sometimes. She asked if I needed anything. But after a few weeks, her tone began to shift. One morning, she walked into the kitchen while I was making coffee. "You know," she said casually, "this house is way too big for you. I'll take the upstairs bedroom. It's closer to the bathroom." I didn't argue. I just nodded. Then one evening, she came downstairs and said something I'll never forget. "Martha, it's easier if you sleep in the basement. I'm turning the guest room into my office." The basement. It was cold, dark, and smelled like old wood. But I didn't argue. I told myself she was grieving too. Weeks turned into months, and Debbie became someone I barely recognized. She started controlling everything. She took my pension checks, saying she would manage the household finances. She locked the food cabinets in the kitchen and said groceries were too expensive for me to snack all day. Imagine being 80 years old, living in your own house, and needing permission to eat. Some nights I would sit on the edge of my small bed in the basement and ask myself one question: how did my life turn into this? Debbie would bring her friends over sometimes. I could hear them laughing upstairs while I sat alone in the basement. Once I walked upstairs quietly to get a glass of water. Debbie saw me and rolled her eyes. "Why are you always wandering around?" she snapped. "Go back downstairs." Her friends stared at me like I was some kind of inconvenience. That night I cried, not because I was hungry, not because I was cold, but because I had allowed someone to treat me like I was invisible. But what Debbie didn't know was that I had already made a decision, a very important one. You see, this house wasn't just any house. My husband and I bought it in 1978. Every wall held memories. Every corner had a story. But Debbie believed something that wasn't true. She believed the house would eventually belong to her. And that belief made her confident, too confident. Now, before I continue, if you're enjoying this story and believe kindness still matters in this world, please subscribe to Golden Years Stories. Your support helps keep these stories alive. Now let me tell you about the person who changed everything. Her name was Angela. Angela lived next door. She was in her early 40s, a single mother with 2 children. Unlike Debbie, Angela treated me like I mattered. Every morning when she saw me outside checking the mail, she would wave. "Good morning, Miss Martha," she would say with a big smile. Sometimes she brought me homemade soup. Sometimes she just sat with me on the porch and talked. One evening, she noticed something. "Martha," she said gently, "why do you look so tired lately?" I tried to hide it, but the truth slowly came out. I told her everything about the basement, about the locked cabinets, about my pension money disappearing every month. Angela looked heartbroken. "That's not right," she said quietly. "No one should treat you like that." But I just smiled, because Angela didn't know something either. The truth was, I had already visited a lawyer 2 weeks earlier. You see, Debbie thought she had control over my life, but she had forgotten something very important. The house, the land, everything. It was all in my name. And that day at the lawyer's office, I made a decision that would change Debbie's future forever. I changed my will, every dollar, every piece of property, everything I owned. I left it to Angela and her children, not Debbie, not even a penny. Months passed. Debbie's behavior got worse. One day she yelled at me because I had eaten a yogurt from the fridge. "A yogurt!" she shouted. "You're costing me money." I didn't respond. I just quietly walked back down to the basement. One afternoon, she walked downstairs looking excited. "Martha," she said, "I spoke with a real estate agent." She smiled confidently. "When the time comes, I'm going to sell this house. Atlanta property prices are amazing right now." I looked at her quietly. She was already planning her future, but it wasn't the future she imagined, because I knew something she didn't. Karma was already on its way. A few months later, my health started getting worse. Angela helped me more and more. She cooked meals, checked on me every day. Debbie barely noticed. Then one morning, something happened that Debbie never expected. A lawyer knocked on the front door. Debbie opened it. "Yes?" she asked. "My name is Mr. Thompson," he said. "I'm here regarding Martha's estate." Debbie's face lit up with excitement. She thought this was the moment she had been waiting for. But when the lawyer began reading the document, her smile slowly disappeared, because the will said something very different from what she expected. Everything, the house, the land, the savings, every single thing, was going to Angela and her children. Debbie turned pale. "This has to be a mistake," she shouted. But the lawyer simply shook his head. "No mistake," he said. "Martha made this decision months ago." Debbie looked at me like she had never seen me before. For the first time in years, she had nothing to say. And that was the moment she finally understood something. Kindness is remembered. Cruelty is not forgotten. Today, Angela and her children live in this house. They treat it with love and respect. And Debbie, let's just say life has a way of returning the kindness we give and the cruelty we show. If my story taught you anything today, remember this. Respect the people who helped build the road you're walking on, because one day you may need them more than you think.